I'm really pleased to be here today. Thank you so much. And just before I jump in, Symantec. Who is Symantec, right? So we're the largest cybersecurity software company in the world. We have an enterprise business and a consumer business. Very often, hopefully, people understand our consumer business, which is LifeLock and Norton. So we're about $5 billion in revenue. We're about 13,000 employees globally. We're in about 50 countries, so it's a pretty complex business. We've grown a lot through lots of acquisitions, and I would say our integration efforts could be stronger, and that's what we're focused on right now. Because when you do lots of acquisitions, you very often have a lack of integration, and therefore lots of multicultures. And then the pay gap. So we have undergone one round of pay equity, and it was mostly focused on gender. This year, we're looking at the pay gap globally. So I think Google just announced that they're done something very similar. We're on the same route. How many of you have employees in the UK? The last year we had a report on the UK equity, which is a very different way to calculate that stuff, and so we have that again coming up. And I anticipate every country or countries will be getting on that bandwagon of looking at how do you measure the pay equity balance. So we're in the throes of doing our pay equity assessment. We just have completed it. We're going to roll into our focal, which is in June. It's going to take us 3 years at least. It's not that we're that largely behind, but you have to fix inequities, and it takes time and affordability. And two, you have to continue to stay up on it, because as you hire people, promote people, it continues to be a challenge. So we're wrapping that into our hiring and promotional process to make certain we're looking at that as part of it. In the past, I don't think about it that way. So I'm really excited about that, and I want to start to amplify that. I think someone mentioned that there are legal folks sometimes who are my best friends. I love legal, but sometimes they're a little afraid to talk about this stuff. I want to get it out there, because we all know what's happening. We all know these gaps exist. I don't know if anyone watched the Today Show this morning, because the U.S. women's soccer team. Have open discussions, and this is the hard part, because everyone's kind of nervous about what to say. And then everything from the Me Too to making certain you don't say things that are politically incorrect to just saying things you say out of maybe ignorance versus out of bad intent. So really trying to give the language to our managers about how to talk about it, and more just asking questions, being curious, understanding what motivates people. That's half the battle, is building a relationship. There was a recent study through Gartner that said 68% of managers are afraid to talk to their employees. So we're trying to have, in the world of trying to have constant conversations and this constant input and feedback, and the managers are worried about talking to their employees. There's a lot of work we need to do here. It's a great question, because I often get asked, why is Silicon Valley so hard to do this stuff in? And I kind of say, well, Silicon Valley has largely been built off of lots of startups, and very often in startups you bring your college friend in, or the person you were in the trenches with, which very often is sort of in your image, and so we got to break that. And so very often what I say is, before you just hire the guy you know or the person you know, let's just look at a couple other candidates and see what they bring to bear, and kind of push them to open up their armature. They may still hire that person, but you got them thinking differently about other candidates that may be in the pipeline, and perhaps they'll meet somebody that they really truly believe in. If it's a leader who does it a lot, sometimes they'll bring a new leader in, and they'll bring all their former colleagues from their company. I'm like, you can't just bring. First of all, you're going to create a whole different culture for the company by bringing all the folks from Intel, making this up to Symantec, or from McAfee to Symantec. You've got to open up. One, as a leader, you look like you're more diverse, and you're looking to seek other inputs, and you're not just bringing the recipe that worked in the last company. Because very often the playbook that worked there won't work here. So I try and do it through opening up their armature, their thought process, and then where I have to, do some heavy-duty leadership coaching. So key learnings, this is the part where my last slides, and have some more conversation, is it starts at the top. So Mr. Senior Leadership, don't do it on your own. I mean, it's going to be it's like an activist type of role, but you want to do it in a way where you bring people into it and you're not doing it on your own, because it's going to be much more sustainable if it's a business practice. Be outcome focused, really prioritize. Top 2 or 3 things. Don't throw a bunch of stuff at things. Get really crystal about what you go after, and then go deep on those things. Do your math, as I already mentioned. Get really clear about what's available in your addressable market. If you want to uplift women representation by 40%, it just doesn't happen overnight. You go and see where are the pools of talent, where are the channels to go after it, who can you build internally, but understand what you're working with right now. Because there's sometimes they'll say, well, we have a bunch of African American engineers, and we say, well, there's There's none in this current pipeline. So either you hire in a different place or you open up a different strategy to get that pipeline in. But understand that. Otherwise, you're going to have the same issue over and over again. Invest in manager development, as I mentioned earlier. As I said, a lot of managers are afraid to even have a conversation, let alone talk about things such as diversity and inclusion. So bring them into it. Take the time and nurture. We are now reintroducing what fell away because of bad discipline in manager boot camp. In this manager boot camp, we're not only having things like how to do a work day, but how to think about inclusive discussions, how to think about servant leadership, how to think about bringing voices in that aren't being promoted, how to understand your pulse survey so you can see if there's a challenge in your organization, how to talk to your employees.